Good evening. Let me welcome you all on behalf of the delegation of Prague to the European Union at the Prague House tonight. We are very glad you all came for tonight's event, which is another edition of Science Café, tonight concentrating on prevention of cancer, which is a very serious and important topic. So we are glad you came in large number. And the Prague House is certainly very glad to host this event and to participate in it with the main organizers. So I will just shortly welcome the ladies standing next to me, who are representing the main partners. It is Kateřina Šédová of the Czech Center Brussels, Lenka Procházková of the Czech Liaison Office for Education and Research, and Vendula Nováčková of the representation of South Moravian Region to the European Union. I don't know how many of you know the series, and maybe some of you are here for the first time, but we do hope that you will take an active part in this evening by asking questions and giving out comments. But before we move to this part, everyone, including, of course, the speakers, will be properly introduced. So I'll just wish you now a very nice evening at the Prague House, and I give the floor to Christina. Is it right? Yeah. Okay. Enjoy.
Thank you, Lucie, for hosting this edition of Science Café. Science Café has been around since 2016, and we organize it together with my partners 3 to 4 times a year. And today is the second time we're organizing it on this special occasion of the International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day to all of you. And we're very, very happy to be here with all these wonderful women who focus on a very important topic of cancer prevention. And it's very nice to see how many of you care as well. So I very much hope that you will enjoy it tonight. And I will pass the word to Lenka Procházková now. So enjoy the evening.
Hello, good evening also from my side, ladies and gentlemen. Today my task is actually to introduce a little bit the topic and maybe to answer the question why we have chosen the topic. We have a small presentation for you at the beginning, so on the screen you will see some important topics. As was already mentioned, the topic today of Science Café is cancer prevention. The main reason, the main reason or the answer why we have chosen the topic is actually numbers. When you look at the first slide, you will see that in 2020, actually 27% of deaths were caused by cancer in Czechia, and actually it's the second most common cause of death in Czechia. Above all of that, 67,000 new cases were detected at that year. So, you know, the cancer is actually a serious topic, not only in the EU, but of course in Czechia. Everybody, I think, was touched by the topic, unfortunately. So when we look at the history in Czechia, we have long tradition in cancer research, actually from 50s or 60s, if I'm not mistaken. And we have several strategies. Right now we have National Cancer Control Plan 2023, in which all the most important institutions like research institutions, universities, university hospitals are involved. Thanks to those institutions, actually current results in cancer research in Czechia are above the average in international comparison. If you look in the numbers we have mentioned at the screen, actually the most common cancers which are detected in Czechia is prostate cancer, breast cancer, and colorectal cancer. It's important to say that those actually are not those responsible for the second most common cause of death in Czechia. The research which is represented in biomedical research in Czechia is actually more than 25%. And also from 2015, more than 600 projects were supported by public funding in Czechia, which in euros is actually around 245 million. When we look to the other side, As I already mentioned, we have several institutions involved in the topic in Czechia. Here you have the map of university hospitals. We have 12 of them in Czechia. And then we have 13, which is quite special. It's Masaryk Memorial Cancer Institute in Brno, which focuses only on the treatment of cancer. Also, those 12 university hospitals, they are cooperating with 8 faculties of medicines, and those 8 faculties of medicines are part of 4 universities. When we move to the other important institute we have right now in Czechia, it's National Institute for Cancer Research. It was established in the last year, and actually it's supposed to be next 3.5 years. It consists of 3 hubs, and those 3 hubs are made by 11 institutions which already were involved in cancer research, but this is the way how to make the research to be more linked, how to better use human resources, finances, how to in better way use infrastructure we already have in Czechia. Those 3 hubs are in Prague, Brno and Olomouc, as you can see, and the topics are divided into 5 research programs. And those 5 research programs are done by 71 research teams. This National Institute is actually funded by EU funds. Actually, it's a Czech recovery plan, but we hope that it will continue even after it will be finished, the funding. But it's only the situation in Czechia, and of course we are here also to talk about the EU. So how is the situation in the EU? As you can see, in 2020, 2.7 million people were diagnosed by cancer in the EU 27. At the same time, approximately 1.3 million people died because of cancer. It's supposed, or there's a suggestion, that in 2035, cancer will be the leading cause of death in EU, and actually it will be increased by 25%. So, as you can see, almost half of overall burden cancer in Europe is covered by breast, prostate, lung, and colorectal cancer. And the highest 5-year survival rate is actually breast, prostate, and testicular cancer. What is also quite important, it is that approximately 40% of those detected cancers are preventable. And that's the topic of today's evening. So if you will be careful, if you will listen to our ladies, we believe that we will help a little bit to lower the rate of detected cancers. And right now, I would like also to introduce our moderator. As you know, we already have those fabulous ladies, Kateřina Šédová and Nina Formánek Jaganjacová, who will take the main debate after I will give the floor to Sojke. And today I will tell something about Sojke. Sojke has over 20 years of experience in science communication, public outreach, and working with the press. After obtaining her bioengineer degree, she has active in biomedical research before transitioning to science communication at the Life Science Research Institute, VIB. In 2022, she founded Content, which is her own science communication company. So now I wish you fruitful discussion after the debate, and please, Sojke, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lenka. Good evening, everybody. I'm really thrilled to be here, not only because of the topic, but also because I've got 2 beautiful women here on International Women's Day, and not only beautiful, but also very inspiring, with very inspiring projects. I'm not gonna try to pronounce your names. Lenka already did it, but I'm allowed to say Nina and Kate. So for me, it's Nina and Kate, and for you, maybe the other names. So I think what you are doing is really wonderful, because indeed preventing cancer or diagnosing it really soon is very important. But I'm not going to talk about it now. I'm going to let you present your own project. So could you please, in 5 minutes, tell the people who you are and what you're doing and why you're here tonight?
Okay, let's see. Good evening. So my name is Nina. I can be Nina for everyone. I know Formánek Jaganjacová is a lot to pronounce in any language, so Nina. I am a daughter of 2 doctors, which is important because I felt always as a middleman between health experts and general public, because until every day today, I count at least 2 medical questions directed to me that I'm supposed to know just because I'm a daughter of 2 doctors. I don't know if anyone has any doctors in the family, but that's usually how it starts. I studied international development and social policy with focus on health, and I did my thesis on non-functioning, not really well-functioning health systems and how they affect reproductive health of women. So happy International Women's Day to everyone. For me, these topics are very important, and of course, one of these topics also is always linked to women health and breast cancer. That's clearly something we're gonna discuss later. So after my studies, I was at European Commission in Luxembourg, where I was in health sector in the addiction team. And I went back to Prague and I started to think of how do I use my understanding of these statistics and indexes and numbers and these health information that I'm always being the middleman of, and how to kind of translate it into the very basic language with me believing that there is one health and there are health basics and health basic information that each individual should know regardless of where we're from. So that's kind of the main idea of how Sifty, we sift through information and how our NGO started. And throughout the years, when I was at home with kids, and I have 3 baby boys in 2 years, one from each other, it was a bit difficult to, tackle all these things, because I don't know how many of you are from Czech Republic, but our system is not very friendly to working moms of small children, so there's not a very good infrastructure for that. So it's been a bit of a journey, but it was gradually developing with me trying to put this health information into attractive, kind of simple, understandable perspective. And I had volunteers coming to me asking, what can we do? How can we help? It's interesting. I want to know more about health topic. And I had one, and I still have one very good friend and colleague, Bara, who had cancer herself. And that's how I was linked into the cancer topic. And she had this very, I have to say it because I finally learned how to say it, the whole dermatofibrosarcom protuberans thing that she had. And it's very unique type of tumor, and she had it on very unique, in a very unique place, which is her head. It was right here. So she had to go through this very difficult big operation. And I was asking her, okay, so here we go. What are the information you didn't know? What are the information you missed? Where did you find them? Did you understand it? And I had so many questions. And she said, well, for the starters, which was very first thing we did linked to cancer, was distinguishing between colors of cancer ribbons. I wouldn't think initially that was something very important for someone, but for her it was very important that these ribbons mean something, and she's linked to other people who have the same thing through this color of ribbon. So we just created a flyer in Czech language. There was no flyer in Czech language understanding which or explaining which cancer is linked to which color, which seemed very basic. But then as we spoke about the topic, people started through social media and through our emails sharing their stories with us. And I felt okay, we have people talking to us about it. We should use our platform or whatever we do. And we created a website called Příběhy, stories about. And the first topic was cancer, of course, because that's how people started talking to us. And in my complex, kind of nerdy way, I felt like, okay, I don't have enough information if we're talking to patients. So we started speaking to doctors, to radiologists, to psychotherapists, to people who are, to family members, to people who care of the patients and how they're feeling. So overall, with all this we created a book called Příběhy o rakovině, which I'm very happy that there was a map of all these facilities in 6 cities, because our books are at 11 hospitals with oncology centers and in all these 6 cities. So I'm actually very proud of that, because it came kind of organically, and some hospitals even invited us by themselves if we can, come and share the book. And so I felt like this is kind of a prevention from, let's say, beginning to the very and when you lose someone, what is happening after that? How do you cope with that? It's like a guide through the whole process in a very simple, using cheat sheets as well, in a simple and attractive way. So that's what we do.
Thank you. Kate, can you maybe also introduce yourself and your project?
Thank you. Sorry. Hi, my name is Kate. As we started with the names, I'm a medical doctor, actually internal medicine specialist, and also founder and executive director of a public health organization called Loono. I founded Loono after my personal experience with cancer at the age of 22. I studied medical school, and I already knew what can be wrong. Did someone studied medical school here? Not really? Okay. I would just tell you, if you study medical school, you always feel something is wrong, but this really felt wrong. So I visited a doctor as soon as I could, and cancer was found on my ovary. And when I told about my experience to my peers, to my friends, actually none of them would visit a doctor as soon as I did. And that scared me, right? Because they could lose their life because of the lack of information, or because they think that cancer is for older people. That's common myth and misunderstanding, which I was 22, cancer is for everyone, basically. It's inclusive. So I started this so-called, it wasn't even an organization, it was just movement, a few workshops, meeting people, talking about my experience. And later on, there was a company organized or founded, and we started asking for grants, for donations, and we grew from there. And today we are a team of 100 people, medical students, young doctors, and other professionals all around Czech Republic. And we are educating the general public about prevention. We are increasing the health literacy in general, and also the attendance of preventative screening programs, which is quite low in the Czech Republic and globally as well. We participate in public discussions, policy making. We talk to the government, to lawmakers about how the national guidelines on prevention should look like. I'm very proud to say that we helped to save more than 70 lives. Until today, more than 70 people let us know that our workshops helped them to discover a lump in the testicle, in the breast, or other disease in time, which is really rewarding for me, because that just all made sense, my own experience. So I'm happy that we did that. Other than Loono, I also help other NGOs in Czech Republic and other patient organizations to really be professional, advocate for themselves. I help them with fundraising, with marketing campaigns, and I also have my clinical work in one of the faculty hospitals.
That's quite a lot. I think, we heard a lot of things already in your introduction. So I want to take out one thing, because both of you mentioned actually the importance of knowing your own body. Your friends and you with your medical colleagues, that even when you know your body, then you don't react soon enough. Can you say generally that we do not know our bodies enough? Is there a taboo about your body, about a healthy body, about what disease brings to a body? Have you got some? Yeah.
I believe we're in a very rushed and busy world today.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have time to really be with ourselves and focus on what is happening to our bodies, regardless of, when we get to the point of self-examination.
Mm-hmm.
When we're tired, we overcome it. There's always a pill for something, and we're, very result focused.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I feel, and what I see around me, and especially how much of a gender topics am I supposed to involve here today? Because I feel like there's another thing with women tending to minimize whatever they're feeling, not to be, over emotional or annoying or whatever, topic they come through it. But I feel in general there's still a lot to be, for example, when we're tired. Tiredness could be also in women, and I'm sure I'm used to saying Kateřina. Kate would know better, but when we talk about heart attack, for example, at women it may not be appearing in the same way. We don't have to have the same symptoms as men. It can be linked also to fatigue, which, I mean, is something that we usually tend to overcome, and also fatigue is a symptom of very many different things, but we're used to being too tired. I'm too tired from this and that, and then we just ignore it and we don't go and follow up and don't go to all these mentioning prevention, the checkups. Czech health system is very generous, and I feel like it's a shame that people are not willing to listen to their own bodies.
And is it then not willing to listen to their bodies, or not taking the time to do so, or are there other barriers that make you not go to the doctor because I'm a young healthy woman?
I think that's also in terms of the case of really low health literacy. There are about 40% health literate in Czech Republic, which is quite low. It's increasing over the last 5 years, also thanks to COVID. But it's still very low, so people don't know what to look for. That's what we teach them. That's one thing. The other thing is that the lack of time, definitely, but you always have time if you're pressured, right? You always find time. But then there is also fear of knowing. That's also a huge thing. And there is a fear of bothering your doctor, using the system for your advantage. So we are also telling people that it's okay to go to see a doctor, even it's false alarm, because it's better to go twice, 3 times. It's fine. The system can handle it. It's just better than come one time later or late. Sorry.
And the fear, do you think there's then a taboo as well, that it's difficult to say, oh, I've been diagnosed with cancer, because people will treat you differently, or?
In my perspective, it really changed over the years. I founded Loono 8 years ago, and it changed. I think the new taboo is infertility and mental health, mental disease. But it's in bigger cities, in our social bubble. But it's different in smaller cities and regions in Czechia. We are there like 10 years ago, where cancer is still taboo.
And because if we're talking about knowledge, then I immediately think about schools, about responsibility of schools. You have both. You have different types of ways to bring your content to different audiences. Is school an important target audience for you, or are you focusing on other target audiences?
I feel like school is the very important audience, because children are more, in my head, are more open to learning and more, actively talking about things. And more importantly, they're listening to what you're saying to them, especially when you bring boobs, it's when they're actually paying attention. But I feel like that's really, school is crucial. And now we were discussing, actually last week's conference in London, we were talking about how to bring health back to elementary schools, to talk about health and prevention and understanding what is happening. And health literacy is a huge topic, because in our schools, it was not really taught. I remember I was in this gymnasium for 8 years, and it was math and physics focused. So we were 3 girls in the class, and we had one workshop of 30 minutes about cycle. And it was us and all these boys who were laughing at it. So I felt like maybe it's a little too late when the puberty, age hits. But I feel like it's really important to talk to children about it as well.
We started hosting the workshops in school as well, but we got tired of it very quickly, because we weren't really able to cover the whole Czech Republic, and you go one a year and the other year there's more children coming and graduating from school, so it wasn't really sustainable. So we started supplying the schools with boxes for preventive education. So we actually equipped the teachers with materials and dildos and condoms and other things for sexual.
then about reproduction, or is this about cancer as well for the...
We have different
schools?
boxes
Yeah.
for different things. As I didn't mention that at the beginning, but we started with cancer prevention.
Mhm.
But soon, in like 2 years after we founded Loono, we started with cardiovascular health. And today we also do reproductive, mental health, diabetes, all sorts of things. We don't do lungs yet, but next year we'll have everything covered. But we give them first aid, sexual wellness, cancer, nutrition, and different boxes.
Yeah.
And they're really happy about it because that's what the school doesn't have money for. So that's more sustainable way to really empower the school to start their own curriculum. And in the long term, we want to participate in changing the guidelines on the national level, on the Ministry of School. Because it's changing every 4 to 5 years, and we want to be part of the discussion so we can influence how the curriculum will look in the future.
Yeah, and you recently developed an app as well. This is towards an older target audience, huh?
It's currently 18 years old plus, just for the legal purposes of the minimum viable products for the first version. But we definitely want to, this year we want to include 15 plus, and for the future we want to open it to everyone. 15 plus especially because we want to talk more about sexual wellness, and since you have to go to see your gynecologist since you're 15, then it definitely makes sense. The app in general reminds people to go to preventative examinations. It helps you to find doctor, and it also gives you a database of medical information, podcasts, videos, articles. We are now in the first version, so it still has many flaws, but people love it. That's the most important thing. We have thousands of people who already visited formerly neglected examinations, which is the reason we created the app, and that's a huge success for us.
Yeah, that's great. and then next to that, you go with your I'm looking now, more than 100 volunteers to the different schools and different centers to go and give workshops there. Because of the workshop, we have to say that at the end of the discussion, you will tell us a bit more about the workshop, and everybody will be invited to have a small workshop here as well.
To touch boobs and balls,
Yeah.
you can see over there. So we send medical students to schools, companies, and festivals, but we also we are very active, maybe more after pandemic, like 80 or 75% to 25 online.
Yeah.
We are very active on social media. We have huge reach with our website, TikTok, and all the new media, and also with the app. So this is much cheaper, more also sustainable, and you can do it from everywhere and for everyone. Actually, the main reason why we developed the app was that we weren't able to reach all the smaller cities, the regions, in terms of travel cost and the manpower cost. So we are definitely including the medical students in those online activities as well. They are participating in the videos and they really love it. Which actually became our second mission, that we are raising new generation of doctors who are focused on prevention.
Yeah. Very, very important as well. You must recognize that online communication is very important, and that you can reach a lot of people via that channel.
Yeah, we're currently working on online courses for students, especially because we're just 5 volunteers and we're doing it in our free time, so it's really tiny project compared to. But I did wanted to say about Loono that I feel like you made such an important name for NGOs in our country, because their marketing is very nice and friendly and very, they have a big reach, but there are still tendencies. For some reason, I don't even know how that started in the first place, but many Czech people have this idea of NGOs and seeing them in a bad way. So I just wanted to say that you made a really nice name for NGOs in general. I needed to put that out there. But we're now working on online courses to make it, pretty. It's easily translatable. It's easy to reach schools with that, and also it doesn't have to be for very age specific when it comes to very basics. So now we're working on, because after cancer we're talking about infertility now in our other chapter of stories, because those are the topics that affect, you know, the whole society. It's not just about the individual's health. So we felt like that also COVID helped a little bit with, let's say, digital knowledge of teachers in our country. So now that they know how to use it, it will be much easier to get to them.
And that's important for you, the both of you, I think, to not only have the personal stories, but also to have the numbers to say what's the relevance of the numbers we just got here, that cancer, but also other diseases, because it's obvious that you will not limit yourself to cancer. How important or what an impact it can have on society, and how important this prevention is, because I understood earlier this evening as well that in the Czech Republic there's a lot of focus on preventive health. Do you feel that as well, that this lives more than maybe, because you travel around the world, that it lives more in Czech Republic than in other countries? Or
do you want diplomatic answer?
I don't know. What does the public want? I think you can be honest, no?
Sure, no problem with that. To be honest, since the beginning, I attended many conferences and public debates on prevention, and usually where it ends is that prevention is important, it saves money, we should do more about it, and that's it, right?
Okay.
So there's not many things that moved. There was one big thing that happened this beginning of the year, that there are more money targeted into preventive fund of insurance companies. That's one thing. There is also 11 programs being piloted in the preventive screening area, for example, lung cancer screening, maternity screenings, which is amazing. It's not only cancer, it's screening of other diseases as well. So I think it's shifting, definitely. And what gives me hope is that in Czech Republic there are so many driven people, not only doctors and medical professionals, but also economists, medical lawyers or pharmaceutical lawyers that are really driving the public discussions. And without them, only with lobby or with politicians, we wouldn't, I think, make such a change. But the situation is changing, and also because of think tanks, these groups, these public studies. But it all goes from the outside, or from
bottom up.
Exactly, exactly.
And do you see that it's maybe a too national focus then also? Because we're here close to the European Union. Is this something that has to be tackled on a higher level there? Do you see things moving there?
Definitely with the renewal of European Cancer Beating Plan, there's many steps already being done in terms of making sure there are not that many inequalities in people having access to cancer screening, and there are huge inequalities amongst the countries of European Union. Czech Republic being in the first third of the best. We are actually one of the first piloting the lung cancer screening. We are one of the most. We have one of the most visited mammography screening in the whole EU area. So we definitely need to be proud of what we created, and European Union is driving it, and it's also providing a lot of money, a lot of funding to open new centers in Czech Republic. So I see really positive impact in that as well.
And I just wanted to ask you, Nina, because we were talking about it earlier, that if I think of prevention, then I think of preventing getting sick. But you told me, no, there are 4 stages in prevention that are really important, and that you're focusing on all those different 4 stages. Can you elaborate on that?
Also, thinking of prevention, everyone feels like this is all before getting diagnosed or having disease. Being diagnosed is already secondary type of prevention. There's one that is even primordial, which is when you're healthy and you're at no risk. This is mainly education, individual education, mass education, living in a healthy environment, ensuring healthy environment. Then there's primary one, where you're already talking about risk factors. This could be vaccination, immunization, and preventing those risk factors that are already occurring. Mm-hmm. Then where I hope it makes sense. The distinction is sometimes it seems a little bit blurry, but so far where no risk factor immunization. Secondary stage is already being diagnosed and starting treatment and doing these first precautions. Then there's the last one where we talk about ensuring the best possible quality of life. So that's why, for example, in our book, we're trying to walk through all these stages. Yep. Because different stages have different aspects of people, and it changes throughout the, especially with cancer, it's not like one-time thing that is done and solved. No. It may, recurrence may appear, and then there's a big impact of mental health, and not only on you but on your surroundings. Mm-hmm. So there, the quality of life is also very, very important thing when you're dealing with disease. So.
And this is then, in first instance, prevention or giving information to patients or possible patients, but next to that it's also important to inform the environment on how to deal with patients or how to not see them as patients, and how long do you stay a patient once you have had a diagnosis. Is that something to focus upon as well?
For me, definitely. We have a whole chapter called how to speak and not speak to a patient. Mm-hmm. Which we came with sentences that people were told during their sickness, or there are some people just say something out of blue and they don't realize how it may affect the patient. But also patients don't want to be called patients. They are still the same people with same interest, with same habits, with same. I don't know, if I like to watch football or whatever, I'm gonna still probably want to watch football even when I'm sick. It doesn't mean that everything needs to be sad and quiet. It doesn't mean people around me are not allowed to be happy and have fun. Mm-hmm. There are many aspects of this, and I think that's also why the book is pastel colors. Like our aim is to let people understand that it's okay to talk about heavy topics in a calm way. It's around us. It's okay to progress somehow with your life, even though it may be a bump and it may be affecting you or your surroundings. Yeah.
And is this something that you can bring in schools as well? Because I think most of the children hopefully don't get diagnosed themselves, but they have a father or a mother or a grandmother, an aunt who's been diagnosed with cancer. Is there place for that discussion as well, that they know how to, or maybe children just feel how they better than adults, I think, how they have to behave towards is.
Well, me having 3 kids, I feel like, and this friend of mine, we spoke about with the cancer. She. You can see it on her that she had some kind of surgery, and many women lose their hair due to chemotherapy, and then there's discussion at school, and I've heard a lot of these, for example, her daughter came, there's another girl whose mom has cancer, so we're two, and they felt like, we belong just because they spoke about it. And when you were mentioning some numbers, in our book, that's my go-to why it's important to talk about cancer normally, and it's a common thing, unfortunately. We have these statistics that every third Czech has some type of tumor sooner or later throughout their lives, and the average size of family is 3.12. It does affect everyone sooner or later. It shouldn't be such a shocking. It is, but it doesn't have to be. Yeah. It doesn't have to be that scary. But with children, I feel like they're very straightforward. Mm-hmm. You're sick, okay, what does it mean? They may ask questions, but if you respond normally and calmly and don't freak them out, they will be completely cool with that.
Yeah. You wanted to add something?
I just wanted to maybe add that I totally agree with Nina that talking about health issues is a huge part of health literacy, Health literacy, the definition is actually being able to find, read and understand and then apply medical information or information on health and prevention. And that's definitely part of the education at schools, but it also needs to be taught to the adults. So we are currently adding new topics to our workshops, which is what questions to prepare for your doctor, how to be a partner with your doctor, not to be subordinate. Mm-hmm. How to be confident in your ability to take care of yourself, because I think there is still the patriarchy of a doctor being the god and you feeling that you cannot do anything about your health. Mm-hmm. But that's not true. You can be complete owner and really keep yourself healthy until 100 years old. So we want to empower the generation to really be confident that they can own the body, because what happens also is that you visit a doctor and you give them the full responsibility because you don't want to have it, right? Mm-hmm. And for me as a doctor, this is really difficult. So I talk to my patients about, you need to be here, you need to make the decisions with me. Yeah. And it's not always easy. And so what triggered me at the beginning when you asked about talking to patients, I like to switch the discussion how you as a patient should talk about like the things to your doctor. Mm-hmm. You also need to be really proactive, you need to be polite, which is not really common either, and you really need to ask questions and advocate for yourself.
Because that, I can imagine, is very difficult because, you get this diagnosis, this is shocking news, and then there's a lot of questions, but I can imagine that they don't pop up in your head immediately and that people have to be instructed how to, or write questions down, or...
That's the first thing in our cheat sheet. Just take a piece of paper and write everything down. Write everything down before you go to your doctors. But this is a huge topic we were discussing with oncologists from the hospital we work with. And currently we're trying to develop a health communication course for medical schools. Mm-hmm. Because that's there's something called patient experience. There's health communication when it comes to media and how to understand whatever is happening in the media. Especially with COVID, it was a huge mess of information from all the sides, and it was easy to get confused. But with having doctor being responsible is something that I see. I was working in my mom's doctor's office, and she's focusing on internal medicine and geriatrics. Mm-hmm. So some people would come to talk to her, just to talk, to have a chat. Yeah. But some people would come and just throw all the baggage they have at her. Now you solve it, and whatever she tells them, they are not going to do at home. Yeah. So that's a big issue. And I feel like this is, especially when we're talking about 60 plus years of age, it's quite difficult to change your habits. Yep. It's always difficult to change your habits. But this is a health communication, especially between patient and doctor, and overall health experts and general public is a huge topic that we still have a way to go.
Yeah, and I think that's indeed very, very broad. This doesn't limit itself to cancer, but in all, in all kind of diseases. That's because you're mentioning now 60 plus, but also Dr. Google. I think
I like patients who Google.
But I've got a patient at home, and he also always knows better than his medical doctor.
That's good. I really like people who Google, because it means they care. Yeah. They care, they come and they have their own solution in mind, and we discuss and we go from there. There are not that many of us thinking that, but I think that's the future. People need to be informed, they need to make their own decisions, and they need to have as much as information as they can. So there is a website in Czech Republic called nzip.cz, which is the national information portal on health. Mm-hmm. And we will cooperate with them to make the content even more engaging. But I'm really happy that we have something like that in Czech Republic, which has really nice keywords, and it really works with SEO. So if you Google something, it will be one of the first three things that you find,
Yeah.
and that's good.
That's true. If it's good information that pops up first, then indeed it's good. Maybe one more question, because when you're confronted with a serious disease, how important is it to bring someone with you when you go to the doctor? Just as a companion, but also to get all the information together.
I will just maybe speak from my perspective as a physician. I really invite family to come with, especially older people, but also for a wife or husband to hear what's happening is nice, because as you mentioned, the people are in shock. They are not able to absorb all the information. So I think that's very nice if you have, and I see it also as a huge benefit for a patient to have someone to come, because being an internal specialist, I also see a lot of patients who are alone and don't have anyone, and nobody's visiting them. So that's also a very important topic, and I'm glad Nina is addressing, giving them books and giving them tools to orient themselves, because patients who are alone can be really lonely.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And then because it's International Women's Day, I'm gonna switch gears, and I'm actually looking at you as two female entrepreneurs, and what you're doing is wonderful. But there, from that side, what are the challenges, and do you feel more challenges? Is it more difficult for a woman to start something like this, or doesn't it matter whether you're a woman or a man?
I didn't really think about it when I started. I just started. And sometimes it's advantage, because there is so many attention going towards women and female entrepreneurs. So I really believe that could be your advantage. If you can deal with certain areas where it's still a lot of sexism and a lot of focus on men, especially when you talk to investors, etc. But it's same from like in medicine, right? Being a female doctor, it's also sometimes a disadvantage, because they see you as a young female and they will tell you will soon have children. We might admit a male doctor, so that's a little bit, not a little bit, that's not okay. But in terms of entrepreneurship, I really see it as advantage. And I also support other female founders in Czech Republic to fulfill their dreams.
Yeah, I feel like there are many mentorships, female to females, and they're bigger and bigger. There's a bigger focus on having, even for investors, having a diversified portfolio, let's put it that way. And since there were not so many women before, now it's getting, they're more empowered, I feel like. For me, it was a challenge with the children. It's because as I mentioned in the beginning, in Czech Republic, the idea is for you, when you have a child, you should be at home with him until 3 or 4 years of age, which is not, of course, it's not for anyone who wants to start doing anything. That's a challenge I'm facing. But I feel like starting with investors and speaking to people, it's more and more open, and some people are willing to have or are searching for female founders specifically, because they feel like it's this diversity is, of course, there are many studies showing that it's always better to have diversified team and leaders, and it's always a good choice. But apart from having a kid, which is also another reason why some people may be questioning whether it's time for you to get your money now because you're in your early 30s or late 20s. They're always there's this thought always. What's your backup plan? So if you have children, what's going to happen? Some people may ask you these questions, even though they shouldn't, but it's still, that's probably one of the thick skin part of sexism Katka was mentioning.
Because that's indeed something, I think I read it on your LinkedIn as well. You both also help other organizations in fundraising. It seems like crucial to have good fundraising, but can you give some tips or how
If it's good to have money in your
Yeah,
organization.
it's good to have money, I know, but how do you get the money
yeah,
in a good, in a sustainable way?
That's the key word, sustainable way. We started Loono as a, of course, volunteer project. We got the first money from a grant program of Vodafone, the media, the phone company. And then we grew from there with small grants, bootstrapping, donors, etc. But over the time, we really realized if we want to grow on certain pace, if we want to make our own decisions, not based on project. Here, many of you are doing European projects, projects from certain grants. It really puts you on a certain track, and you cannot go and try different things, pivot, and be free in a certain decision. So we created a model that 50-50. So we raise 50% of our money from donations, grants, and money from Union and Ministry of Health. And 50% is our own cash because we sell our services to B2B. We host workshops in corporation. We have charity e-shop. We do sponsoring. We do business. For that, we actually, I received in 2021, I received the EY Social Entrepreneur of the Year prize, which was huge satisfaction because we really worked hard on this type of financing, and we are good practice for, and we inspire other organizations in Czech Republic to do the same thing in order to grow. Because if you should be really dependent on governmental money or only donors, you wouldn't have the freedom to grow. So that's maybe an inspiration for you.
Yeah. And yeah, growing means growing in people, growing in going beyond the Czech Republic, growing in themes. What kind of growing, or all those kind of growings?
First thing, impact. Growth for us means more impact on the society, more results. So definitely in terms of money, in terms of not only number of people, but seniority. I think the big issue in a non-profit world is lack of competency. So we don't always have the money to hire senior people, but we developed a strong network of mentors who are really pushing the knowledge into the organization. We are asking everyone for pro bono consultations, and it's working. So, but that's long-term goal as well, to really make the organization even more professional. It means also as an impact, it means on different regions in Czech Republic, and with the app, possibly different countries in Europe. Next year, we want to do market research on what country will be the best to scale the app in terms of necessity and the economic viability, let's say, because we need to find partners in that country. We need to find source of fundraising because we want the app to remain free forever.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, because we talked about it earlier, Nina, that translating things into another language, it's not just translating into another language, it become other stories, because every health system, every educational system is different.
Yeah, well, we are now working on, with cancer, you asked me, is it in English? And it's not.
No.
Because it's called Stories, Cancer Stories. And we have some famous Czech people in the book and their stories, some of which were never told before. So, of course, the media jumped on it, which helped a lot to raising the awareness. But there are chapters of where do I go if, for example, I find something, if I have a GP or if I don't go to a GP. Who are the specialists that I follow? There are these cheat sheets that are very much linked into Czech health system. So, of course, there are some things that could be translated easily, and would make sense overall, but not for this case. But currently, we're working in terms of reproductive health. We're already working with 4 languages before we launch the, let's say, basic reproductive health knowledge and information. And we were I was just visiting my former university, London School of Economics, and I spoke to my sexual reproductive health teacher. So I believe we're going to kick it off there, and great. I hope it's gonna get to the countries where it would be, useful.
Yeah, and maybe traveling and finding partners here as well.
Any translator, you know, to Dutch would be.
Maybe we can ask whether there's questions in the audience or volunteers who want to translate a book. A book. Are there no questions? Yeah.
Thanks. I tried to break the ice. Thanks for your presentation and congratulations for your activities. I have two questions. First, I think something was already mentioned, because when you say that part of your business model is also to work with the corporation, with business. So do you think that this subject of the cancer prevention should enter more in the work environments? And how is more difficult when you have small, medium enterprise, and we know that in Europe there are a lot of small, medium enterprises. And then, if it enters in the work environment, how important is the management should care about that? Because I mean, when you have a colleague who is suffering of a cancer, I think what we say, all the surroundings, especially in the work environment, is very important. And the second question is about how do you think that involving some testimonials can be, can provide some more impact for people. We are in a society where a lot of people, they look with some kind of admiration for, you know, sport, actors, things like that. So do you think that this is also an important path to follow? Thanks.
So I will start with the corporate question. Maybe I said it not correctly. It's not only corporate, like big companies, but it's also definitely small, medium, you name it. Everyone who is interested or who has really bright-minded HR, I would say. That's all. We are talking to HR managers. We are hosting events for them. We are educating them that health should be one of the top priorities for their employees. Because as we see from the statistics that the main reason why people are sick from work on the leave, and which costs the company money, sorry, I don't know the English word for neschopenka. Sick leave, thank you very much, which is the back pain, right? So we host health days in companies on how to prevent the pain in the back. We do ergonomy of the tables with them. We provide them with workshops on cancer prevention, healthy heart, nutrition, etc. So they really see that that's already happening, that they see that as an important thing. And also it's very well perceived from the employee perspective that they have caring employer. So that's both ways, and for us it means money, but also impact. So that's win-win for both sides. That's one part of your question. And the other one, we use testimonials almost every day. And also the media campaign for the app was based on stories of ambassadors whose life were saved thanks to prevention, as well as mine, as well as one guy who went to our workshops and then discovered testicular cancer. Those are our ambassadors, so we use that. Definitely we do.
You also worked with testimonials of famous Czech people, no?
In the book,
yeah.
Yeah, those are the some of those are in the book, because that's how we were actually talking about the name, and it doesn't seem like it's a guide. It's which was the main kind of attraction for people to read it. Mm-hmm. Cancer stories. There's this Olympic winner, then there's this actor, then there's this young actor, famous now, whose father was this famous actor. Nobody knows this inner, family stories. Mm-hmm. So people did want to read it because of that. But then there are all these medical information coming with it. So we did have some. That's the thing with feedback. It's really rewarding knowing that you helped someone through something, whatever you're attempting to do. So when you get we got one specific email. It was like this long, and in the very end they said, I never would have thought that I would be reading about biological or whatever treatment, just because I wanted to know what happened with Chantal Poulain, who was one of the actresses. So to me, it was like, okay, this concept probably made sense.
And is this then media that takes it up or interviews those famous, those actors or other famous people?
In our case, it was very quick because there's this biggest media house, and like the most the Blesk has, like, there's one whatever newspaper that has most readers. Somehow, to my shock, still has the most readers in our country.
Same here.
And we launched the book, and we had this nice, cozy event where we didn't invite media because our main patron of the book was this Olympic Eva Samková winner, who lost both of her parents to cancer in 2 years apart. And it's a very interesting story because she was in one of those. She was in the role of a child who was not taking care of anything. She was just there, and it was a long sickness of her father. And then very quickly, her mom had back pain, and that's also another thing that she was ignoring. Then we're reaching 15 different topics that we spoke about today. But then she was in a role of responsible one, and that's a very interesting story. So we had this launch, and we were speaking with the therapist, with oncologist, and with Eva about the whole concept, why they, joined the book, and it was this nice little cozy event. And then tomorrow, there was this huge article about tough, challenge of Eva Samková in her life, and they sold the story, which was amazing for us, but I felt really bad about it. I didn't, in my mind, I thought, of course, somebody's gonna pick it up, but for it to be, the top article the next day, and I called her, I said, okay, I'm really sorry, I never invited anyone from the media, and she said, it's fine, as long as people read it, it's great, it's gonna, work. So yeah, and then eventually I was invited into different media houses and on TV, and somehow it organically
and then it starts
grew.
rolling.
So for us that was crucial, I think.
I saw another question. Yeah, over there.
So in terms of men in Czech Republic, are they much less likely to take cancer seriously than women at a current point? And how do you think we can help, for men to take it more seriously? Because to me personally, in my experience, us men, we don't take it that seriously in comparison to women I know who actually, they do the research, they, care about it. So, yeah.
May I ask you why? Why don't you take it seriously? No, I'm just. It was just a joke. We ask that all the time. No, but I don't think there is any. In my mind, I don't know any statistics saying that. But what's true is that there is, in family in general, there is a mother actually taking care of the family's health, which you can see as disadvantage, and men don't take care, but we see that as advantage, and we try to empower this female model. And for example, with the app, we want to allow you to add your husband and your kids and their diagnosis and their checkups, because we know there is a manager of health in every family. But what we did with men with the testicular cancer is that we named the campaign Boobs and Balls, which was very funny for a younger generation, and not only younger, but then it grew to the older one. But we named it balls because guys say balls, right? And the testicular cancer is the most common cancer in men between 15 and 30 years old. So we want to talk to those guys in their language, also in schools and universities, in music festivals. We go every year to the biggest music festivals, and we are there with the people, and we ask them. And we hear different stories, but in general, I don't think they care less than women. Also, because their mothers often had breast cancer that affected them a lot, so they're very cautious about their health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that an answer? Are there other questions?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, which was super fascinating, and for the whole discussion. At the beginning, you mentioned that you saw a change with COVID in the health literacy in Czechia, and I would like to ask, do you feel like people in the Czech Republic after COVID take care more about the preventive care? Because what we hear from the media, or at least what I've heard most of the time, is that the preventive care has been super neglected during the COVID pandemic. So do you think now people are picking up on that in more intensity?
No.
That's discouraging.
No. There's two different things. In terms of COVID and health literacy, it improved because people were forced to search for the information on COVID, search on information about vaccination. So that really improved their skills. Health literacy is also about having the ability to really search and understand, so it really strengthened the ability for them. In terms of neglecting the checkups, I worked in the hospital during the second wave of the pandemic, and I really saw that we all did the best we could, and some preventive measures were pushed in time, not only in cancer, but also diabetic, heart failure, every checkups were delayed. So we are still catching up, and we will for the next 3 years. So the long-term impact of the pandemic will be even bigger than the virus itself. The whole impact on the also financial impact and also the time impact will be huge also in the future. So I think people are trying, people are going again to see the mammograph. They are not scared to go to the hospital anymore because of the virus, but we're still not there, and you can see the numbers. I just been two weeks ago to the seminar of the Czech National Screening Center, and they showed the graphs, and we are at the point where we were in the 2014. So it's really, really bad, and it will take some time to get back. But not in terms of motivation, but in terms of catching up with everything.
There I have another question, because it's different to be infected by a virus or having something that's wrong with your own body. Do you see there a difference that people are not so reluctant to go to a doctor when it's a viral thing of something that comes from, because it has nothing really to do with my body, but once it's cancer or it's heart disease, it's your body that fails, and that people might get angry with their body or don't want to know it because of the fear, what am I going to do? Do you see there a difference, or maybe easier for a medical doctor than...
There is also a type of cancer that is caused by virus,
True.
which is the cervical cancer. There is difference. Also because if you have a flu or some viral infection, it's probably not that serious as cancer. And you're right, and Nina probably with the stories knows better than I do that people feel at first that cancer is their own failure, that the body failed, which from my position of doctor, I try to encourage them that doesn't have to be always true, right? There's genetics, there's influence of the environment, there's certain factors, and everyone is have different ability to cope with stress. So, that's not only your fault, but definitely everyone is going through that. And also, I don't only think that's cancer patients, but all the patients. Yeah. I have asthma. And I ask every day, what did I do wrong? I have asthma, I do everything right, but I still do have asthma. So I think that's chronic patient thing. Yeah.
I feel like this also affects patients in later in the stages. They get really mad at themselves. For example, you can have the same type of cancer in the same place, at same aged women, everything seems to be the same and having same treatment, and it doesn't work exactly the same. Of course, it might work in one case and then not in the other. And then you go online, and if you're not able to really, coming back to health literacy, read and find information that is really reliable, good source. Then you may read stories of somebody else, and in kind of this whole website where I'm not going to name it, but there's this really huge website that is very common for patients to read about anything. And they're giving each other advice that are very linked to medical advice, which should not probably be the case, right? And that's where they come with, okay, so it's me, so I'm going to go. That's also part of why many patients shift to kind of alternative ways.
Yeah.
When once you're failed, they feel failed by the Western medicine, then they just give up. Or it may be just one bad meeting with one doctor that they just came up with, which I think in our country we have really generous health insurance system. We have many specialists, and it's very easy to just switch to somebody else where I would feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to blame yourself or the system or anything that really comes.
And then it's very important that patients and doctors know how to talk to each other, to have this bond and to.
Yeah, we're back to health communication, right? It's that's a huge topic, but it's also a skill that I believe can be taught.
Yeah.
When we're speaking to doctors, but they're just humans. Everyone can have a bad day, and I know you have to be professional in every case. And especially, I feel like that's another thing we were discussing recently, that there are so many soft skills and great workshops and big companies teaching everyone how to sell perfectly to your client. But this is some skills that should be taught to those, doctors and medical students that are dealing with the most, difficult and heavy topics to talk about. So,
Other questions? Yes, I see someone very enthusiastically, so I'm really curious about the question.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation and for making me ask a question. I'm actually very excited about the workshop here. But what I wanted to ask you is about maybe some new ways of treatments for cancer. If you can tell us more about it, because of course the well-known is chemotherapy. So how common is chemotherapy at this age, and also how these new ways of treatments, how they are coping or affecting the survivor rate of cancer? Thank you.
I would like to promote Nina's book here. Everything's written here. I can be you can be horse, and I can. We will talk business afterwards. Definitely, as you mentioned, there is chemotherapy. There is radiotherapy, which is not really X-ray, but you're pointing light to a certain point. There is, of course, surgery. Immunotherapy, biological treatment, there is proton treatment. I'm not an oncologist, so I'm not really entitled to speak about this topic, but we discussed before that there is still increasing the incidence of breast cancer, but the mortality is going down, which is great sign, also because of their patients being diagnosed early, but also due to new ways of the treatment. So I can only say that much. And also, as mentioned before, there are many research projects going in European Union and Czech Republic as well. So we really have hope that cancer will be treatable one day completely, as, for example, heart disease.
When of course, you can read it all here if you speak Czech. If not, I'm sorry. Come and we'll translate. But I feel like when we're talking about research, we're at a stage where technologies are really helpful. For example, now I'll shift a little bit to HIV/AIDS. There were 5 cases of completely treated people very recently. I think 5th was the last one. I know maybe there's more. With this stem cell treatment, which is also kind of new and kind of newly used in more treatment. So I feel like we're progressing in many ways, and not only when it comes to cancer, but clearly also the technology saves so much time of radiologists when there are new researchers trying to save this time of going through every little tiny detail, trying to find what is a bit of a inaccuracy. This is also why it takes so much time to have some results back when you're waiting for a diagnosis, which is also a really painful, never-ending amount of time, regardless of if it's 1 hour or a few weeks. So I think we're moving towards making it better and easier to.
I just want to add maybe to the testicular cancer that concerns the gentleman that asked the question, is that with testicular cancer it's very important to act quickly. In Czech Republic, usually when you have a suspicion, you see a urologist, you get an ultrasound, and you are scheduled for a surgery the next day. And during the next week, there is a chemo starting already. So because it's such a fast-growing type of tumor, that you really need to act quickly. There are 500 men getting this disease every year, and there are 50 of them dying because they came too late. So we are really pushing the young men to not stay at home, not be shy. It's disease like any other. But we are racing for time here. It's a little bit different with breast. There is, for example, mammography scheduled in 3 weeks, but it's still good. It's still, you are not losing that much time.
No, I have a question. I'm sorry. Because we were touching on a fertility topic and cancers topics, and my question is because we had also some stories of testicular cancer where the male that I have in mind now, he was 20-something years old and he wanted to have children eventually. So we were talking about, freezing his sperm, and if it's the next day surgery, is that even a topic?
Yeah, you can make it on the spot right before the surgery. So it's done. It's standard procedure. It's fully covered by the insurance. It's definitely a topic because, as I said, they're really young, and it's the most common cancer for young male. So they're definitely offered these procedures.
Yep. I had a question there.
Thank you so much for this very interesting workshop, and thank you for these really inspiring stories. I think all of us are inspired after such interesting discussions. So thank you for that. I have a question with regards to screening. So screening maybe has evolved over time, or maybe the perception of people about how screening works changed a bit. Before, it was more common, like we should screen everyone and as much as possible. Now things are evolving. I know there's studies happening and looking, for example, for breast cancer, who we should screen, what ages, what type of constitution of the body you have, for example, how much fat tissue you have, so all different other elements to consider. And also in Belgium, for example, there is there's also a lot of attention going to false positives because compared to our neighboring countries, we tend to have pretty high breast cancer rates. So I was wondering, what is that also links in a lot with health literacy. Are these also things that you explain when you give your workshops or your events? So I was interested in hearing your take on that, because I think it is changing a bit over time. Thank you.
It definitely is. There is also huge discussion going on prostate screening. There is not unite opinion on where we should do it or not because of false positives, because of the fact that almost every man at the age of 80, 85 has some portion of prostate cancer, but they die from something else. So why to treat them, So that's also a very ethical question, and thank you for that. We do inform patients, but not on every workshop, and I will explain why. Because there is not enough time, and not everyone wants to go into such a depth. And we still are talking about people. We all here are at some part interested in health and prevention and well-being, right? But not everyone on our workshop is. So we really need to start somewhere and build the trust and build the basics for further education. But we follow closely these discussions and research. And as I mentioned before, there were 11 programs in the last 3 years piloted in the Czech Republic, and they were mostly focus on very specific groups of population, specifically selected family history, age, gender, different factors, not to waste money and not to make such a burden on the patient's health and time and everything. So I think that's the future of screening, to screen the most eligible population, because we now have more data on what's best for which group. So I think that's the future of screening, and that's also why I don't like the general packages of let's screen the whole body for a huge amount of money that our private hospitals offering currently to patients, because from the medical perspective it doesn't make any sense, and there is huge amount of overdiagnosing people, a huge stress on the patients, and they're just doing all the lab work for nothing without proper family history and etc. So I just want you to maybe think about that when you see some magical package promotion on Instagram or on social media, that you really need to ask, do I really need all those tests? Is it eligible for me?
Are there other questions? Then there's one more question.
Thank you very much for the great discussion. I was wondering, you mentioned in the beginning that there are many myths about cancer. So I was wondering what are the most common myths or even misinformation, disinformation about the topic. Thank you very much.
You want to start?
Where do I start? I feel like the first thing that comes to my mind is when we talk about fear, you get diagnosed and immediately, I'm gonna die, that's it. That's like one of the first thoughts that people come across. That's also the name in Czech, rakovina, is very specific and not really correctly used term. So it makes you, scared about it, but I don't even know where to start. There are so
cancer is for older people, right? That's one thing. Also, there's so many myths about the negative effects of mammography on the mammary gland. There's also a bit of misinformation on the testicular cancer and having a computer on your lap here, which can cause infertility but not cancer. What's more about cancer? That cancer or breast cancer is only in families where your mom or your grandma had cancer, which is also not true. It can happen spontaneously without any previous genetic mutations. That's also a misinformation. And also one we really don't like to hear is that after a menopause, you don't have to go to see your gynecologist anymore. Because you don't have sex anymore, you don't have periods. That's it. You don't have to go there. But that's big misunderstanding, because the risk of all the gynecological cancer grow from 50 plus years old.
Sorry, my favorite is when you're breastfeeding, you cannot have cancer, breast cancer. That's very common. It's prevention, they say, of any type of cancer.
Yeah. I think with those myths that we have a bit debunked, this is a good way to finish the evening, but not completely finish, because Kate, it's Kateřina will show her boobs and balls. And we'll also explain how later you can also touch her models. I saw an anxious only the model.
Only the model. Good. So as I mentioned, we started with the boobs and balls campaign because we really wanted to destroy the taboo and really bring people to the topic of cancer, and we were really successful. It was a nationwide phenomenon. The campaign was really famous. The boobs and balls name is even more famous than the name Loono, which is marketing fuck up.
Because it's a hashtag as well, eh? Yeah.
But just it happens. So sometimes we are NGO called Boobs and Balls for someone, but it doesn't matter unless they check themselves. So self-examination is an essential part of taking care of your body. You can do self-examination of the breast, testicle, and skin. For the skin, you will check your birthmarks. If it's not changing over time, if it's not getting bigger or changing colors, and if it does, you go to see your dermatologist. In terms of, and you do it once a month. In terms of testicles, you also do it once a month, best after a hot shower because it's less painful. And Nina, can I ask you to hold the mic for me? Thanks. So, demonstration. You can do it yourself or you can ask your partner to do it for you. It's really fun and you can do it with your partner. So if you do it for yourself, you will just hold one testicle and you will do these circular movements to really feel any lump, any irregularity, anything that can feel like this. That could be a cancer in your testicle. Then you switch hands and you do the same on the second testicle. At the end, you will do this. You will just hold the testicles once more to feel all the irregularities on the surface, right? We call it rewarding yourself. So you reward yourself or your partner. As I said, it can be done once a month after a hot shower, and you can choose any day of the month you want. We suggest to choose a significant day, like the day you pay a rent or the day of the first month, or you can choose, right? And as I said, it can be done by your partner because some men are scared to do it. It's not comfortable for them. So we have women giving us, sending us messages that they do it and the partner doesn't even know about it. So it really can be done also this way. So please take care of your partner. And in terms of breast, you also do it once a month, but it's best to do it after your period ends because as Nina mentioned, breasts are hormonally active. It really responds to pregnancy, breastfeeding, but also to period changes of hormonal levels in the menstruational cycle. So after the period is the best time. And you do it also once a month, and you first look at the breast if everything's the same as it was a month before. Here you can see that the nipple is inverted because there is a huge tumor behind it, right? So you check the nipples, you check the skin. Here you can see there is a little bit of changes on the skin, which can also be a sign of spreading of the cancer. And you also see if one breast is not swollen or there's any redness on the skin. And if everything is okay, you can touch the breast. You can use 3 fingers, and you also do a circular movements here, and you go really through all the tissue, which is not only here, as you might think, but it also goes to the collarbone. Okay, so you start at the collarbone, goes to the armpit, and here the whole area. The most common area for the breast cancer to happen is actually here, when you think you don't have breasts, right? So that's a really important thing to know. And there can be also cancer on the nipple or under the nipple, so please check the nipple as well. There are 7 tumors hidden in this educational model, so you can after the workshop come and see and touch it. It can be really scary, but I don't want to scare you, so please come. We have 3 testicles and 1 breast, and it can be really life-changing for you because, as I said at the beginning, we have 70 plus people who discovered something after our workshops. So if you remember the feeling you felt, then maybe it will save your partner life one day. Again, it can be done by a partner. So if you do the examination on one breast, please don't get distracted and do the breast afterwards. It needs to be done the whole area. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward. I will be there with the model, so you can stop by and we can talk more about prevention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lenka, you wanted to...
So, right now, I really hope that you enjoyed the discussion and also just the final part. One practical thing, when you will do the workshop right now, I would kindly ask you maybe to join in groups, not to come individually, to make sure that actually Kateřina will have time to share with most of you, and most of you will have possibility, you know, to check or maybe to learn something important. So from my side, I would like really to thank you to Sojke for great moderation and Kateřina and Nina that they came today to Brussels to be here with us. And also I would like to thank to Prague House for welcoming us here in this amazing, fabulous place. And also I would like to thanks to colleagues from representation of South Moravia. It's a pleasure to cooperate with them, as well as with colleagues from Czech Center. So thank you so much being part of this event. And last not least, I would like to thank to my team, Cello, especially Michaela, who was responsible for most of the organization in our office today. And right now we would like to give small presents to our speakers, and I will give floor to Wendy.
Thank you so much. And last words from my side, I would like to also thanks to the teams of Czech Center and the team of Prague House and the team of the representation of South Moravian Region. Thank you so much. And thank you all that you could come with this weather and also because of the strike. So thank you so much. And now I would like to invite you for the glass of wine and some small refreshments. Have a great night.